Today on The Now, we're looking into an issue that is likely to affect more of our families as we age. Seniors not getting enough food. The solution some groups are calling for. And robots taking over recycling, but they're not here to take away any human jobs. We're going to take a look at how this system works.
The children will say, get off the game, get off the phone.
Parents addicted to gaming. What adults should keep in mind before picking up the controller.
Thank you, Annie. Welcome into The Now Indy on RTV6. I'm Amanda Starantino. An honor for 3 former Indiana Task Force 1 members, firefighters who responded to Ground Zero on September 11, 2001, and who have since passed away. Today, the names of Sam Scott, Jacqueline Phillips, and Barry Green were added to the Indiana Fallen Firefighters Memorial in downtown Indianapolis. All 3 conducted search and rescue efforts for Indiana Task Force 1 at Ground Zero in New York City after 9/11 and helped to save lives. Scott, Phillips, and Green all died years after September 11, 2001, but their heroic efforts will never be forgotten. This was all part of the Indiana Fallen Firefighters Annual Remembrance Ceremony. Work is getting underway for a new fire station in the growing Boone County suburb of Whitestown. Today, the Whitestown Fire Department held a groundbreaking ceremony for the new fire station, which will also serve as the headquarters for the fire department. The new 23,000 square foot station will be just south of the current station. It will have space for more fire trucks, a large training room, fitness room, living and sleeper quarters for 12 people, and will house the Whitestown Fire Department's administrative offices.
Well, we're getting ready for the first full weekend of September. Temperatures will respond to a little late day sunshine in spots. Not all of us are getting that sunshine yet, but you see the breaks in the cloud cover. It sets the trend for the night ahead. A lot of the day, it's looked like rain at any moment, but through the day, we've stayed generally dry. Lots of 7s up here. Average temperature this time of the year, 82, 77 in Indy, a cool spot, Delaware County at 73 degrees. Temperatures between now and 10 or 11 tonight will fall into the 60s. The change will be the wind will calm down some. We've had winds gust anywhere from 10 to 20 miles per hour. They'll generally be 10 miles per hour or less. Skies will be partly cloudy as we go through the overnight. Temperatures one more night in the 50s for overnight lows. That's how we step into the weekend. Temperatures only warm into the mid 70s tomorrow. The gray of cloud cover most noticeable in the morning hours tomorrow. By the time we get to the afternoon, a mixture of clouds and sunshine and about 75 degrees.
Dorian making landfall for the first time today in the U.S. It happened in North Carolina on the Outer Banks in the town of Cape Hatteras. The storm flooding some homes in low-lying areas, causing power outages and even tornadoes. Thousands went into shelters. Now, the Red Cross started sheltering people on Sunday. We talked to a Red Cross worker in Charleston.
And I see the communities pulled together. Was in a shelter here in South Carolina, and we had a chance to visit with some of the folks. And, you know, one of the groups that came in were a couple of group homes for adolescent boys, and they and their advisors were in the evacuation shelter. And from the moment they got there, the boys pitched in to help. They were a tremendous asset to our team. They were setting up cots and delivering meals.
Well, the heat is a big concern now, especially for those without power in the Carolinas. Several people in the southeast were killed in accidents preparing for the storm. The CDC providing an update today on its investigation into e-cigarettes and younger people showing up in the hospitals with lung disease. There are now 3 confirmed deaths related to vaping. A 4th death is under investigation. There are more than 450 possible lung disease related cases. And while the CDC says the focus is narrowing, they have not identified a particular e-cig device or substance involved. All are likely associated with exposure to chemicals. A new report published today on the first 53 lung disease cases in Wisconsin and Illinois stops short of recognizing any one substance, but says many vaped THC. And all the people were generally healthy before they came into hospitals with symptoms like shortness of breath, fatigue, and weight loss. They were all younger with a median age of 19. Over half needed intensive care and help breathing with machines. Right now, the CDC is saying no e-cig use should be considered safe. And vaping cartridges bought off the street and mixing, adding substances may be especially dangerous. And with all the concerns about vaping, more is being done to discourage youth from ever starting. Now we're seeing more kids getting tested for nicotine. Any Lab Test Now is a national chain that can detect if someone is using nicotine through blood, saliva, urine, hair, or nail tests. Meanwhile, some schools are investing in vapor detectors, and they can detect chemicals in e-cig smoke and alert school staff. All right, ahead in our lineup, finding justice for families who lost a loved one to a drug overdose. But is charging drug dealers with a murder the right way to go about it? One group says there should be a different way to tackle the drug crisis.
TheTrackEnterprises.com.
Just this week, a drug dealer was charged in connection to the death of singer Mac Miller. The DEA says the man sold Miller counterfeit oxycodone pills believed to be laced with fentanyl. However, that was not the case when Demi Lovato overdosed last year. The LAPD did not investigate the man who admitted to giving Lovato drugs hours before she overdosed. Police say it was different because they consider an overdose a medical emergency. Now, the Drug Policy Alliance says charging drug dealers hasn't been common in the past, but it is happening more. A state representative in Connecticut is pushing for legislation that would charge drug dealers with murder or manslaughter charges if their drugs cause a deadly overdose. At least 20 states have drug-induced homicide laws. They carry the same sentence as murder and manslaughter. But there's a debate about how effective these laws are.
We know that what is needed to address the overdose crisis is not going to be more criminalization of people who use drugs, people who sell drugs. We've had war on drug policies for several decades, and we know that is ineffective when it comes to preventing overdose deaths.
Instead, the Drug Policy Alliance says efforts should be focused on how to prevent drug-related deaths. Well, Bank of America is working to help Americans nationwide buy homes. The down payment grant program will help people with initial costs. So the people who qualify could get up to 3% of the price of the home to use as a down payment. And then you can also get $7,500 to help with closing costs. The program is available in nearly 50 cities. And we're getting more information about the new technology being tested by TSA at Las Vegas McCarran International Airport. The body scanner makes it so that you don't have to raise your arms above your head like you have to right now. The equipment is only being tested 4 hours a day. Agents are also taking more time with passengers if they go through the scanner to make sure they address any possible issues. Well, ahead in our lineup, millions of seniors are going hungry. We take a look at the problem and solutions some groups are calling for.
RTV6 is working for you.
Turning now to the news feed, jury selection is underway in the trial of a white Dallas police officer who killed an unarmed black man in his apartment. Amber Geiger is charged in the death of Botham Jean. She told investigators that she accidentally went into Jean's apartment thinking it was hers. Geiger was fired. H&M is taking a stand in the connection to the fires burning in the Amazon. It says it won't buy leather from Brazil, and the chain doesn't want to support cattle farming that could be tied to those fires. The maker of Vans and Timberland shoes made a similar decision. A moment of unity on the gridiron in Texas. Teams from El Paso and Odessa held a moment of silence ahead of their game last night. The marching band also spelled out the word love on the field. The towns were the sites of 2 mass shootings in the last month. Well, we're talking about a serious issue that many of us probably take for granted, access to food. And there's a critical need for older Americans. Around 5.5 million people 60 and older don't have consistent access to enough food to keep them healthy. That comes from the group Feeding America. Now, the numbers are only expected to grow as the baby boomer population ages, and it's a more complex problem to tackle because many of these adults are homebound or even isolated. Meals on Wheels, which delivers to these seniors, says funding has been flat, and because of increased costs associated with the services, they are delivering 21 million fewer meals today than they were in 2005.
If they're not getting the nutritional services they need, many of them are isolated. 59% of home delivered meal recipients live by themselves. Often the only person they see is the Meals on Wheels driver who's bringing them their food, that only human contact.
Now, seniors who aren't getting the nutrition they need are more at risk of falls, and those could lead to a hospital stay and possibly long-term care. All these factors are driving up health care costs. Meals on Wheels would like to see a new approach to funding for nutrition services.
We believe that working through the healthcare system is probably the ideal way to get there. because just giving new grants or giving out money each year that has to be renewed is not going to solve the root problem. We need a different systemic solution to supporting the costs associated with providing people with proper nutrition.
So tying nutrition services into programs like Medicare and Medicaid. The Older Americans Act provides money for home delivered and group meals, and it's up for Congress to renew this year.
Thanks, Annie. If you need any books for school this month, buying them online can often save a lot of money. But working for you, John Matarese has a warning about buying inexpensive classic books so you don't waste your money.
This is the time of year parents, teens, and college students are buying books for their school's required reading. And if the teacher says you need a classic, well, it's tempting to buy the $5 version on Amazon. But buyer beware. So you need a copy of George Orwell's 1984? Maybe The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn? Beware. A New York Times investigation claims some Amazon third-party sellers are selling cheap copycat books filled with typos, hard-to-read print, and pages copied right out of Wikipedia. It says these classic books are published in third-world countries where they're not protected by copyright. For that reason, the Times says it's essential to check reviews of classic books before you buy, or visit and support your local bookstore. And from the dozen that stink file, some counterfeit books that are so bad they're unreadable. The Times purchased some books filled with gibberish. In another, a fairy story was named A Fair Story. In one book, Faces was called Feces. Doesn't that stink? Amazon says it tries to police books for sale, but says copyright rules vary from country to country, making controlling these sales very difficult. Bottom line, if you're ordering a book online, read the 1- and 2-star reviews before you click the buy button to make sure it's good printing so you don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese for RTV6.
Thanks, John. Rain marred last year's event, but organizers in Greenfield are hoping for good weather tomorrow for the second annual Fort Bowes 400-bed race. Now, a stretch of North Street in downtown Greenfield will be turned into a track complete with barrels to make it more challenging. The racing gets underway at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. The bed race is put on by the veterans group 40 and 8 to raise money for nursing scholarships. So some good weather tomorrow, Kevin.
Good weather tomorrow, likely dry weather on Sunday as well. Love this shot. You're looking to the Motor Speedway from the Salesforce camera, and at first it may be hard to find there, but you can see the pagoda. That's definitely one of the high points in the Speedway, and I think the only thing higher on the west side is probably the Air Route Traffic Control Center or the control tower at Indianapolis International Airport. Let's talk about this evening. We've had lots of clouds through the day. Tonight the clouds begin to break up. We'll hold off on any rain chances until probably Sunday. That's our next best chance, and I wouldn't call it a great chance. 20%, maybe up to 30% by the time we get to Sunday night. 77 in Indianapolis right now, 5 degrees cooler in Kokomo. Bloomington's at 79, and we all have at least some amount of cloud cover. There's your wind out of the west, northwest, still almost 20 miles per hour. That's a cool direction. Temperatures will be back in the 50s by morning. By 11 o'clock tonight, 66 degrees, partly cloudy as we go through the day tomorrow out at the Motor Speedway. Temperatures in the 70s. Our average high 82 will be at 76 for the afternoon temperature, with more sunshine in the afternoon and I think more cloud cover in the morning. Show you how the computer models handle that in a second. If you're not around the Speedway tomorrow, wherever you are in the state, maybe it's headed to the football game, West Lafayette or in Bloomington, dry conditions and temperatures in the 70s. On Sunday, the change, a few more clouds throughout the day. Temperatures will remain, as we mentioned, below average. 69 at noon, an afternoon reading of about 75 degrees. The chance for showers just 20%, a little higher I think in the northwest portion of the area. Sunday and Monday, temperatures start to warm up early next week. We peak on Tuesday. There's some summer warmth. If you want the summer to come back, it will.
Robots taking over recycling. Now they're more efficient and there's no danger in touching certain types of trash. It makes them the perfect workers, but they're not here to take jobs. Elizabeth Ruiz shows us how the system works and how humans still play a role.
In recent years, the recycling industry has taken a big hit.
We process probably 30 tons an hour.
John Griffith with GFL Environmental in Denver, Colorado says the cost to recycle has gone up and there's more pressure to make sure what's being recycled isn't contaminated with trash. Considering how much material Griffith's recycling facility takes in per day, low-cost efficiency is key, and technology has become its saving grace.
We're using robotics and artificial intelligence to help deal with some of the primary challenges in the recycling facility.
Meet AMP Cortex. Created by AMP Robotics founder Matanya Horowitz, it's a high-speed robotic system guided by artificial intelligence. Here's how it works. The brains and the eyes of the robot are at the top. As material passes below, its smart vision is able to pick out specific items to take out of the stream. Using its lightweight arms and rapid speed, a suction cup picks those objects up and moves them to a different bin.
It's very similar to just taking a vacuum cleaner you might have at home and, putting it against a can and picking it up that way.
The robot's smart vision means it's always learning new information.
This vision system is also connected with all their other robots across the country. So as one robot learns in a different part of the country or different region, it also educates all their other robots. So they're constantly getting smarter.
But it doesn't work alone.
You can say these are the co-workers of our robot.
Humans are still needed in the recycling process, but the robot has been able to take on sorting challenges that would otherwise be unsafe for people.
For obvious reasons, they don't really mind getting stuck with hypodermic needles or kind of sifting through all the nasty stuff that ends up in the recycling, like diapers. And so we can help move the manual sorters further away from these hazards.
This particular robot is focusing its efforts on picking out items like milk jugs, coffee cups, and margarine tubs. The materials were formerly considered trash, but now they can be put to good use and sold somewhere as another recyclable.
Our goal is to maximize the breadth of the recycle program, and by doing so, divert as much waste from the landfills into valuable purposes as possible.
As more robots continue to deploy across the country, it's clear artificial intelligence is helping to transform the recycling industry. Horowitz says they're efficient workers, but they're also providing more transparency and data in the industry that has been historically difficult to obtain until now.
There really hasn't been a sensor or any means of kind of automatically detecting how well things are working, where things are breaking down, where material's ending up in the wrong spot, and artificial intelligence can do all that.
In Denver, Colorado, I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
Elizabeth, thank you. Checking in with the news feed, we're getting a better idea of how the Trump administration will end control of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The government took over the two companies a decade ago during the height of the financial crisis. They will now be returned to private ownership as the companies have started becoming profitable again. 130,000 jobs were added nationwide in August. That's according to the latest jobs report. This includes the hiring of 25,000 government workers for the census. The unemployment rate, meanwhile, remains steady at 3.7%. A big honor for the scientists who captured the first ever image of a black hole. The Event Horizon Telescope collaboration just took home a $3 million award. It won the 2020 Breakthrough Prize in Fundamental Physics. Well, next in our lineup, experts are finding that parents can also be addicted to gaming. In fact, this may be the first generation of parents who grew up with video games. A counselor talks about the signs of addiction and how to deal with it.